That would allow us to put it on the web and have it available for lots of future parents to share and to view. So thanks again for joining us. And my name is Diane Kanney. I am the Director of Enrollment at Ohio State-Newark. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. This evening's program, while we're waiting on others to join, will last for approximately 60 minutes. It really will last as long as we need to be on camera with you to answer your questions. Like I said, we've got quite a few people joining us this evening. We assume that they're mostly parents, and for that, we are very appreciative. And the part of the program mostly is me talking. I'm going to share a brief presentation, walk you through a few things that are important to you and to your students. And then in the midst of all of that, you can ask questions at any time using the Q&A function that you should have on your screen. I've got colleagues I should say, behind the scenes with me this evening. I have C.R. Barclay, Senior Admissions Counselor, and I also have Wes Grunden, Assistant Director, with me, and they are behind the scenes. You'll get a chance to see Wes later. He has a small part in our program this evening, but they are both behind the scenes, and at any point, if you have a question, you can ask that question, and they will be answering most of those very quickly. And some of the questions we may decide to answer live at the end of my remarks. So bear with us just a few more minutes, or I should say maybe another minute or so, while we allow other participants to join us, and then we will officially get started. But again, my name is Diane Kanney. I'm the Director of Enrollment at Ohio State-Newark. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm so glad so many parents are joining us. That's what this is all about, is teaching parents how they can best support their students, quite frankly. You are a key ingredient to their success through this admissions and enrollment process. And we seek your help. We really want you to be involved in their process. So again, welcome, and let's jump into the presentation. Before I get started, I do want to share this important statement from the Ohio State University regarding racism. There's been a lot of tragedies around the country, and we take it very serious at Ohio State, and we're working together with our students, faculty, and staff to make a difference, not only on our campuses, but also in our communities. And so you can learn more about the hard work of Ohio State at the address, the web address, go.osu.edu/addressing racism. Here is tonight's agenda. I'll spend just a few minutes talking with you a little bit about this terminology that we like to use at Ohio State. We have a lot of acronyms for a lot of things. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of those that myself and the team of admissions at Ohio State-Newark feel are important to share with you. I'll talk a little bit about scholarship opportunities. You joining us tonight is very timely because our first scholarship deadline is March the 15th. So you can make sure that your student is well situated for that. Next steps for enrollment, of course, that's very, very important to make sure that your student is moving through our process and can easily get things checked off the proverbial to-do list in time. Housing options, we do have some housing options at Ohio State-Newark. I will explore those with you. I'll share some important deadlines. Again, not only scholarship opportunities and those deadlines, but lots of other deadlines are coming up for your student in March and April. I'll talk a little bit about the road to Columbus, because the reality is a lot of the students are coming to Ohio State-Newark using us as their doorstep into the university, and we welcome that. Usually parents are very shocked that I welcome that, and our team welcomes that. We realize that's our place at Ohio State, and 60 to 70% of our students annually will transition to the Columbus campus. And I use that word transition, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that later too. It's not a transfer that your student will be doing. It's actually a campus change or a transition to the Columbus campus. Very important. And then I'll talk a little bit about more of the upcoming events that we have for you. And in some I'll share, and so will Wes later, some important links to information on our website. So look for all that coming your way here shortly. I'm going to start tonight with Buckeye terminology. Again, I mentioned we like to use our acronyms, and some things that I think are important for you to know and your student to know. Number one, Buckeye Link. It's kind of that landing page where you're going to do everything related to doing business the Buckeye way. That is going to be where you're going to find things such as financial aid information, Carmen, something else that I mentioned here, the platform, the online education platform that Ohio State uses can be found at Buckeye Link. My goodness, I even use Buckeye Link. It is a university-wide platform that we all go to kind of do anything business related for ourselves. So keep that in mind. You will also find myosu.edu is where your student is going to check or activate their Buckeye Mail. Very, very important that your student, once they are admitted to Ohio State Newark, activates their Buckeye Mail and looks at it critically and with careful eyes. I would say, I'd like to say every day. That may sound like a lot, but for those of us who are professionals, we're looking at our email daily, and I think your student should get used to doing that. Once your student is admitted to Ohio State, that is the official venue or location for everything university business. That's how we communicate with your student after admission, is through their Buckeye Mail. So I want to make that very, very clear that that is priority number one. And you're going to hear me say that a couple times tonight. The Applicant Center versus Carmen. I've already mentioned Carmen once. That's that online education platform. Carmen's not going to become important to your students until they're getting ready for orientation. And then there are courses, or there's actually a Carmen course for orientation that must be completed before your student joins us for orientation. So you'll hear more about that as your student continues through this process. The Applicant Center could be very valuable for you and your student right now, because that's where your student will pay the $100 acceptance fee. And again, that keeps your student moving through our enrollment process, is to pay that $100 acceptance fee. On Buckeye Link, your student will find a to-do list. It's very important that your student pays attention to their options, or I should say, to the things, to the tasks that are on their to-do list. Very, very important that those items are taken care of. In fact, one of those to-do list items will be the next item, number 4, which is the financial responsibility statement. That is something that your student must do each semester at Ohio State, and it must be completed before your student attends orientation. If your student comes to orientation and does not have that financial responsibility statement finished, one of two things will happen. One, they will not be able to schedule their courses for that semester, or two, they'll get help from us. We'll make sure they complete that right before they see their academic advisor, and then they will be able to schedule courses. But that will put a hold on their account each semester unless they complete that financial responsibility statement. Some parents and students get confused about what the application fee is versus the acceptance fee. The application fee is something that probably all of you have already paid, which is a $60 application fee. The acceptance fee is basically telling us at Ohio State that your son or daughter is going to enroll. It is a $100 acceptance fee, and it is non-refundable. Your OSU ID versus your name number. Two very important things in the world of Buckeye business. Your OSU ID for students is a 9-digit number. It is a 9-digit number that they sometimes will have to provide to do, again, some Buckeye business. Their name number is something that is provided to them, I believe, in their acceptance letter, and perhaps even before that, but certainly in their acceptance letter, they do receive their name number. If you have ever emailed someone at Ohio State, you know that that is part of our email address. My name number, for instance, is Kanney.24. That is very important and will become very important to your student. Their admissions counselor versus their academic advisor. A student's admissions counselor is the person that is working with them right now. C.R. Barkley and West Brandon are both admissions representatives on our campus. That person is key to your student's enrollment process until basically they get to orientation. And then we kind of hand the student over to an academic advisor, and that academic advisor then becomes very important to your student. That academic advisor is going to help your student not only select courses for their first year on campus, but they're also going to become very important in terms of choosing a major. And also, if your student wishes to then transition to the Columbus campus or campus change, they're going to need the help of their academic advisor to do that. The Buckeye Opportunity Program is very important to those of you who know right now that you have qualified for the federal Pell Grant. If you have, you're going to want to make sure that you research this Buckeye Opportunity Program and make sure that you and your student are fulfilling the requirements of that. Why is that important, you ask, Diane? It's because the Buckeye Opportunity Program allows students whose parents or families qualify for the federal Pell Grant, allows that student to enroll at Ohio State for zero. It'll cost you nothing in terms of tuition. You'll still have to pay room and board perhaps, but your tuition will be paid for by Ohio State. Any remaining or leftover funds or balance you have after that federal Pell Grant kicks in, Ohio State will take care of. So that's very important to a lot of families. Let's talk a little bit about costs and applying for scholarships, because I know this is the time of year to do that. And for those of you who are parents, you're going to want to obviously make sure that you know a little bit about our tuition and fees. We are one of the best bargains in the state of Ohio, in my opinion. The cost of tuition at Ohio State-Newark is $8,550 currently. You'll see it's a little bit more, about $3,000 more on the Columbus campus. Not because there's less value at Ohio State-Newark. There's not, and I can prove that to you in many different ways. It is simply because when the regional campuses were put into place many years ago by the governor, that governor said, I want them to be accessible and I want them to be affordable, and that we are. You can see this slide might look a little bit confusing because of the room and board, and I have the not applicable stated there. It's simply because our students come from so many different places and they live in so many different places. They live at home with their parents who aren't charging them anything to stay there. They sometimes live off campus. If you are residing on campus, it's going to cost you between $7,400 and $7,800 to live on our campus. And we do have housing options for only 310 students. And so I make this slide look a little bit confusing because I have to share with you that we only have space on campus for 310 students. So lots of our students are either living off campus and commuting in, they're living in an off-campus apartment, which we do have in the Newark area, or they're living at home. Let's talk a little bit about scholarship types. Yes, we do have merit-based scholarships. Those scholarships are based upon your student's application for admission. We're going to look at grade point average. We're going to look at rank in class, and we're going to look very critically at your student's curriculum. Students who want to qualify for a merit-based scholarship need to have taken advanced placement courses, CCP credits, or something similar, and several of those, and done well in that curriculum. We're looking for the best and the brightest here. And then once we select them from those requirements that I just mentioned, once we select them, then I'm going to reach out to those students and invite them to write an essay with us, with an essay prompt that we provide. And then we will select about 20 students who will receive a $4,000 scholarship. That's nearly half of our tuition. We also have special or endowed scholarships, and you can find those right now on the website. Those special or endowed scholarships, there's probably about 15 to 20 that require your student to submit a separate application. A lot of those do not require a separate application. They just require your student to apply for admission to Ohio State-Newark. If you happen to be a student that lives in Licking County, there are lots of scholarships for Licking County students because that's our home county. There are also scholarships that are awarded by the Columbus campus. And for those, you must go to a different site. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. And of course, external scholarships. You want to look at your local agencies, banks, community organizations, and perhaps there are external scholarships that you and your student can apply for. So the scholarship to-do list. Hopefully a lot of you already have submitted that FAFSA. The priority deadline for Ohio State is February the 1st, or I should say was February the 1st, but we just urge parents at this point to submit that FAFSA ASAP. Get it into us as quickly as possible if you haven't done that already. Now, one of the things that I want to mention to you is if you are a family that does qualify for the federal Pell Grant, you're going to be a part of that Buckeye Opportunity Program. We expect families in that group to submit the FAFSA by February the 1st. There's been a little bit of cushion there. I just ask you to submit that FAFSA as soon as possible. I mentioned briefly a minute ago the scholarship universe. That is the, I should say, for all Ohio State students on all campuses, that is the scholarship finding tool. Scholarship Universe is for all Ohio State students. You're going to want to review that. How do you get to that? Your student should have access. If they're an admitted student, they will have access through Buckeye Link. And of course, if you want to review the scholarships that I mentioned for Ohio State, you'll want to look at that website, the go.osu.edu, and then / the Newark scholarships. Those range typically from $750 to $2,000. Those are the applications that your student can submit. I urge you to look at those because there are scholarships that simply require your student to write an essay. There's one that's one of my favorite scholarships. It's the Binkovitz, and it simply requires students to fill out the application and submit an essay on the Holocaust. It's that simple. I've already mentioned a little bit about that scholarship timeline. I've mentioned the priority deadline of February 1st for the FAFSA. March the 15th is when Ohio State-Newark scholarships are due. And yes, now is the time to complete Scholarship Universe. It has a technical deadline of February the 1st, but when I talk to parents and students after February 1st, I still urge you to do it because not all those applications had a February 1st deadline. If you have any questions about financial aid and scholarship, and really you want to kind of get the nitty-gritty on your situation specifically, it is best for you to talk with a representative from our Office of Student Financial Services. And that's the phone number directly to their office and their email address. I urge you, if you do have questions about your specific situation, probably best to talk with them and not to an admissions counselor about those. Let's talk just briefly about the next steps for enrollment. This document here on the left of your screen should look really familiar to most, if not all of you. If you received your admissions packet from us, congratulations, you are a Buckeye. And this document is something I would pull out of that packet and I would pin it on the refrigerator or somewhere else where you can actively look at that daily or weekly, perhaps as a family, and ask your student, have you done this? Have you done this? And there are certainly some things on there that parents are responsible for too. Paying the acceptance fee is probably the next best step for any of you who have a student who hasn't done that. Other items on there, I've already talked about activating the Buckeye Mail. That is crucial. That should be job number one if your student has not done that. Completing and continuing to complete those to-do list items because new to-do list items will get added to that list. And of course, for any of you who has a student who has a 504 or an IEP plan, you want to forward those items to our Disability Services Office now, or at least sometime here in the spring, because we want to make sure that when you register for orientation and when you get ready to take placement testing, your placement testing will begin in May and June. We want to make sure that the accommodations that you are so deserving of are in place for you before those placement tests. We can't do that until we have ample time to look at those 504 or IEP plans. And that doesn't just happen overnight. It takes us 6 to 8 weeks to process each of those applications. And of course, you'll be registering for orientation beginning that first week of May is when those first round of invitations will be sent. If you do pay your acceptance fee now, between now and May the 1st, you will be amongst the very first to receive those invitations. Why am I mentioning that tonight? Because those are the students that are invited to the first round of orientations. That's when the majority of classes or the most classes are available at Ohio State, and classes do get full. You do want to make sure your students, sometime after high school graduation, request that their final transcript be sent from their high school to us. They will not be able to register for spring classes as a first-year student at Ohio State until we receive that final transcript. So you want to make sure that you do follow up with your high school in June or July or even in August to make sure that has been done for your student. Let's talk a little bit about housing at Ohio State Newark. I mentioned earlier, we do have space for 310 students. That includes both traditional housing and on-campus apartments. The space on campus is highly sought after, quite honestly. It is competitive to get into, and so we have a housing lottery to really level the playing field for all students. So what does your student need to do if they're interested in housing? Number one, they have to be admitted to Ohio State Newark by mid-April, and then complete the housing application and pay the $350 housing deposit. You have to make sure that is done in mid-April because that housing lottery is always conducted by the housing office in Columbus the last week of April. There are plenty of off-campus apartments available as long as you act quickly. If you don't get into campus housing, you want to make sure you have a plan B. And I want to make sure that you know that paying that $100 acceptance fee does not need to be finished before you put your name in the hat for housing. If you want to wait until April 30th to know, hey, I've got campus housing and I now want to enroll at Ohio State Newark, if that is an important part of your decision-making process, then you can wait to pay that acceptance fee. Here's a look inside McConnell Hall. This is our traditional double rooms in McConnell Hall. McConnell Hall just opened for students a couple of years ago. It's beautiful. Here's an actual view of what you would experience in McConnell Hall. You've got just a place to sleep, a place to study, and then down the hall is where you have the communal bathrooms and showers. McConnell Hall also includes a very nice 300-person multi-purpose room. They have a lot of events for our students are held in that event, or in that event space, I should say. There's a nice Block O fire pit right out front of the building and a nice sand volleyball court right behind the building for students. Here's a look inside the apartments that we have available on campus. Your student would share these spaces with 3 to 5 other students, and your student would share a bedroom with 1 student. And the apartments include everything that you would expect an apartment to include: a bathroom and shower, living room, and kitchenette. And I must say, the kitchen surprises me here. They have a full oven, they have a refrigerator, and a dishwasher in each of the apartments. They're quite nice for students. Let's talk about important deadlines. There are lots of those coming up. I've mentioned a couple of those already. The March 15th is the next one approaching. That is Ohio State Newark's scholarship deadline. April 1st for learning communities. If you don't know anything about learning communities, I encourage you and urge you and your student to learn more about learning communities. It is a great opportunity for your student to be involved in our campus with a cohort of students who share a common interest or a common thread, quite frankly. There is a learning community for students who are first-generation college students. There's a learning community for students who are pursuing engineering, teaching and learning, and several others. So I invite you to explore those. I've already mentioned that on-campus housing deadline, and the honors program has an April 15th deadline for those of you who are interested in the honors program. And of course, you should all be familiar with the national reply date of May the 1st. May the 1st is important to Ohio State students because if you do pay your acceptance fee by May the 1st, you will be included in that lottery for Ohio State football tickets, just like every other Ohio State student. And of course, right after April 1st, typically that first week of April is when we start to invite and register students for placement testing in the summer and orientation. So again, that is really the reason that May 1st deadline becomes very important to a lot of students. This is where I'm going to talk to you about that transition to the Columbus campus. If you don't know so already, your student can make that transition seamless. It is very easy. All they must do is complete 30 credit hours after high school graduation on our campus with a minimum 2.0 GPA. Now, that does not include any CCP credits or AP credits. It is 30 credit hours after high school graduation. So it's basically 2 full-time semesters on our campus. And let me be honest, lots of students who come to our campus and think, I'm only going to stay here for those 2 semesters and I'm heading to Columbus as quickly as I can. They fall in love with our faculty and they fall in love with our campus and they end up staying longer. But we also know that we are that doorstep into the university for a lot of students, and we welcome that, and we are okay with the fact that so many students will need to and want to transition to the Columbus campus. You can start all of Ohio State's 200+ majors on our campus. You will not get behind. In fact, you will stay very much on pace to graduate in 4 years, students. So no need to worry about that. Other things that I should mention to you, we realize that you have choices, right? If you are given the choice of Ohio State or Ohio State-Newark or other campuses, your student might be thinking about enrolling somewhere else and then submitting a new application to Ohio State and to the Ohio State Columbus campus. Let me caution you and tell you why I caution you here. Number one, when your student enrolls somewhere else, they are immediately a transfer student to Ohio State. And they go right back into that competitive admissions process as a transfer student. That's something important that I think you should know. Number two, any credits that your student will earn at another university, if they do transfer to Ohio State, they will likely bring those credits. Ohio State has great partnerships with lots of colleges in the Columbus and surrounding area. So those credits will likely come in. However, your student's grade point average will not come with him or her. Your student will start at Ohio State with a grade point average of 0. After all that hard work they did as a first-year student somewhere, they will come in with a GPA of 0. If your student chooses Ohio State-Newark for their first year, their credits are part of their record forever. Their grade point average is part of their Ohio State record forever. They are a Buckeye from day one on our campus is how we like to say that. So that's something I think for all families to consider. Yes, if and when your student starts at Ohio State-Newark and transitions to the Columbus campus, they will graduate in 4 years with that diploma from Ohio State. It's the same degree, the same diploma from the Ohio State University. I want to share some upcoming events. The on-campus Buckeye Visit Days. I know I appreciate all of you staying in your warm, cozy homes tonight and joining us via Zoom, but you don't have to do that all the time. We want you to come to campus. We want you to experience our campus. And the best way to do that is to join us for one of our upcoming Buckeye Visit Days. You'll see we have 3 this spring for you and your student to join us for. We also have several virtual campus partner events coming up. Those are very important to a lot of you. And I want to highlight the learning communities. That's just 45 minutes or 60 minutes just to learn about the learning communities. And let me emphasize, not only are those learning communities a great way for your student to transition to college and have a cohort of students who share a common bond or a common thread with your student, but a lot of those learning communities, several of them, offer your student a stipend for joining. And so your student could actually benefit financially from that involvement with a learning community. The housing, we're going to have a campus partner event for housing, so you can learn everything you want to know about housing before you even have to submit the application if you prefer. Student Life will talk to us on April the 7th, and then we'll wrap things up with disability services. So if your student has a 504 or an IEP plan, I certainly welcome you and encourage you to join us for that disability service event. For all of those admitted students with us tonight, we definitely want you to mark your calendars for future Buckeye Day. That is always a great day on campus. That is Friday, April the 15th. It's very similar to a Buckeye Visit Day, but slightly different. So we encourage you to consider joining us for that. And you can view all of these events and more on our website at go.osu.edu/visit-Newark. Here are just a couple of important links that we want to share with you tonight. Obviously, if you're just an applicant, you've got a page set up just for you. On the admitted student website, you're going to find recordings of events like tonight's on there, some archived videos from the last couple of years when we were remote. And you're also going to find a lot of cheat sheets or guides for how do I activate my Buckeye Mail? Or how do I pay my acceptance fee? We've got videos, we've got cheat sheets out there or guides for you to use. So lots of great things on that admitted student page. For parents, we have the Parent Corner. And I should also mention, we do our very best to add current and very relevant content to all of these pages on an ongoing basis. So you'll see those pages grow over time. So if you visit there tonight, and you don't find what you're looking for, you might check back, or you can reach out to us too and seek whatever it is that you were looking for. Of course, if you have more questions at any time, we are here for you all the time. You can call us or you can email us, and you'll get in touch with an admissions counselor who can definitely answer your questions, very much the way that CR and Wes are doing tonight behind the scenes for you. I also want to encourage you to follow us, especially on Instagram. Our colleague Stephanie Negron runs the Instagram for our campus. I shouldn't say for campus, but for our office. We do a lot of fun things for students. We're going to keep you well informed. You're not going to miss things if you follow us on Instagram, and certainly Twitter. And for parents, we've got a nice parent and supporter group out there on Facebook. You may want to join us there as well. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. I appreciate your time. Don't go anywhere quite yet. We've got a next part of the segment is going to be Wes Grundon. He may want to answer a couple of questions live with you tonight, but he's definitely going to walk us through some of the helpful web pages that are available to you. So Wes, did we have any students or any questions come in that you wanted to answer live? Oh no, I wonder if we just lost Wes. We may have. Well, CR, are there any questions out there you wanted to answer live?
Wes had queued up the question the question about if families would receive any of the $350 deposit back. And the answer is yes. Any student that is not offered a position in the residence hall, but participated in the lottery, of course, would get 300 of the $350 would be returned to them. I want to also note that you must remain on our waiting list until mid-July. You have to give the process enough time to go through and give everyone an opportunity to tell us yes, they want a spot, no, they don't want a spot. It usually takes a good month and a half for all of that to shake out. So usually the refunds won't start until the first or second week of July. So you will get it. It'll just be in a delayed. In a little bit of a delayed fashion. Mm-hmm. And I think Wesley is back.
Yeah, I was
I'm
waiting for
sorry,
him to
Diane.
come on camera, but I'm not sure that he is back, CR, but I see a couple
Oh,
other questions have come in. So
okay.
I thought we would talk through those with the hopes that we'll get Wes back. Um,
Okay.
and CR, this is a question that you may be able to help me with. I'm not certain on this answer. I want to say it's no, but can a student who's enrolling on our campus actually pick up their Buck ID on the Columbus campus? I know it can be used there. That's one thing I want to point out is you're going to have a Buck ID, students. And when you do have that Buck ID, it's going to work on our campus and it's going to work on the Columbus campus. But CR, do you know, can a student from our campus pick it up on the Columbus campus?
Uh, Technically, yes, they could, but again, I want to make sure that we caution families that right now with the COVID-19 restrictions, just as of right now, everyone is trying to create their own bubbles. And if you are a Newark campus student, we have a process which probably is going to be a little bit quicker because of the sheer size of the two campuses. If a student wanted to or is eligible for a Buck ID during the orientation process at Newark campus, it's set up for a student to get it at Newark campus. Now, normal circumstances, normal situation, the answer would be the answer would be yes. But as Diane has said at the beginning of the program, these are different times that we're living in right now, and we don't want to speak for the Columbus campus for a certain situation, especially something as what is it required as a Buck ID. We have the process set up for Newark. My first go-to would be for Newark campus.
Yes, and I would also just add, and then I see that Wes has made it back on. I'm so glad. And I'm just going to add on to that. For the student who asked that, I'm going to say that I think you're going to find the process of picking up your Buck ID to be pretty simple on our campus. You can park right outside the Warner Center and walk in, and I think it's probably going to be a little bit more of a hassle for you to do so on the Columbus campus, just simply because the campus is larger. That's it. And we're going to make sure that during orientation, if we do have orientation in person, which I don't know the plan quite yet, I think there's a lot of hope that we will be able to do that this summer. But if you are coming to orientation, you'll be able to get your Buck ID then. So CR, I'm going to let you behind the scenes take care of those other questions that were posed. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen here quickly so that Wes can jump on and show you a couple of pages here.
Yes, and thank you and apologies for my technical difficulties. But yes, parents, thank you again for joining us this evening. And you heard Diane talking a lot about these important web pages that you and your student are going to need. And I want to just show you exactly what they look like tonight and where you can find them at. And so I am going to share my screen with you. And the first screen that I'm going to show you should be seeing our Buckeye link page. And this is, as Diane was saying, this is going to be your main hub as a student. All the things that she was talking about, those next steps and the to-do list, you're going to be doing and navigating from here. So the Buckeye Link main page, again, is buckeyelink.osu.edu. And this is where students will be able to log in to their Buckeye Link accounts. You'll be able to see class scheduling in there, doing their to-do list, and eventually that is where they will be able to get in and see their financial award letters as well too. So students, please make sure that you, or sorry, I should say parents, make sure that your student is aware of this page and knows how to get to it. Another important one, and I am switching here, and you should be seeing the email page that is my.osu.edu. And we've heard this a lot as admissions staff members, that initially when you start dealing with Ohio State, we are communicating to you or your student via the personal emails that you give us. Once a student becomes admitted and they continue on that pathway to becoming a current student, we no longer will be sending you anything to that personal email. It's going to go all through your Buckeye Mail email, and you need to set that account up right here. To get started, very simple. When we give you your student that last name dot number, that is what you will need to get started. You'll enter that right over here and activate that access code and then set up your password. Again, parents, that is going to be the main way we talk to your student. And so if you're worried that you haven't heard from us with regards to things about housing, financial aid, updates about honors programs, anything in general like that, you just have not maybe had a chance to check your Buckeye Mail account. So make sure that your student is not only activating that, but checking it and doing it frequently, because there's going to be a lot of information that comes in for the students. I also wanted to share with you a couple important web pages, and Diane referenced these as well too. But the first that I'm wanting to show is that admitted student page. So you should be seeing that now. And this is a very important web page for our students. And once a student is admitted, this is going to be a great information hub. It's going to have not only information about next steps, but also information, helpful videos, and ways to interact with us. And so if there's a question you have, of course, can always reach out to the admissions team, but I'm sure a lot of those questions can be answered by coming to this page for your student. And I also wanted to reference the parent corner that Diane was talking about earlier. And parents, we have tailored a web page just for you. You should be able to see that right now. It's all those helpful tips that your students should be getting as well, but we put it on your own page for you so you can help follow along. And you can see as I scroll down through this page, there is information about how to help out with the college search for your student, information about campus visiting, good information, and of course, links to some of our upcoming events. And I do want to stress that when it comes to events, you can never attend enough. If there's something you want to learn more about, please attend that. You heard Diane talking about our virtual events that are coming up. We do have several over the next few months. We have our Buckeye Visit Days as well, where you can come to campus and really get the red carpet treatment. We will show you anything and everything about our campus. Now, you might be wondering, okay, these web pages, how did you get there? It's very simple. If you go to our main Newark web page, or if you're on any web page of Ohio State Newark, you can simply get there by hovering over the Future Students tab and going to the admissions section. And that will take you to all the pages that I just showed you, the web pages that I just showed you. But don't forget the email page and the Buckeye link page as well too, because those will be very crucial. One last thing that I will mention is that we were promoting our Buckeye Visit Days, and Diane mentioned that we do have one coming up soon, and it is going to be a week from tomorrow. And don't worry, you're not too late to register. Registration will not close until after this weekend is up. So you quite literally have until Sunday night at 11:45 p.m. to get registered. But don't worry, if you missed that, if you're enjoying the Super Bowl and you're like, oh my gosh, I wanted to register and I forgot, give us a call. We can add you to the list. So we hope to see you again. And as always, please reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you, Wes. I would like to add one thing because it's come up, and I think I heard this last year from a parent. A parent was actually surprised that Ohio State Newark had their own website. Yes, we have our own website. So I wrote to one of the parents tonight and I said, they were asking about where do I find the application for submission of a 504 or an IEP plan. Yes, we do have a disability services webpage, and that right on the front of the page, you'll find that application with a link to submit for your student. So I encourage all of you to make sure your student has number one, activated their Buckeye Mail, make sure they read their mail. I don't think it's a bad idea if you have a great relationship with your student, and we hope you do, to read that mail as well. A lot of you were asking about deadlines and how can I make sure that my student is ready and checking things off the list. And that truly is the best way. Your student is not going to miss anything if they simply read their Buckeye Mail. That is our best advice. So with that, I will ask one last time, Wes or CR, are there any questions that we want to answer live? And if not, we will say goodnight.
Yes, I did just see one come in, Diane, and it had to do with Scholarship Universe. And how can they get there to that? Where is that located? How do they kind of go through that process?
Yeah, you know what? And it's been a minute since I've been on Scholarship Universe, but I know it is available through Buckeye Link. That's probably the easiest. I want to say that there's also, actually, if you go to any Ohio State page and you search Scholarship Universe, it should populate as well. But otherwise, I have seen it on a student's Buckeye Link.
Okay, thank you, Diane. And we did have another question from a parent, and they were wondering, they haven't had a chance to start the FAFSA yet, and we talked about the priority deadline of February 1st. And so for those parents out there and students that haven't started that, I think there might have been some worries, what are they missing? How quickly do they need to get that completed to make sure they're not missing out on anything financial aid wise?
That's a great question. And I'll say what I said earlier, and it is just our hope that you'll get it finished and submitted to Ohio State as soon as possible. And we realize that sometimes it's just difficult for parents. There's all kinds of different situations that happen with families that prevent you from meeting deadlines. We just ask that you get it to us as soon as possible and realize that it could, if you delay too much, it could impact the availability of scholarship opportunities. So the sooner the better.
Great, thank you. And we did have a question come in as well. If any type of student winds up getting selected for verification through the FAFSA, there are just some general questions about how do they go about that process? Who do they contact? I will admit, of course, work through our financial aid department, or I should say student financial services. Anything else you would like to add to that question?
I think that process can be confusing. I would ask the student and the parent to read typically that verification letter when they are selected and pulled out for verification is pretty specific about what is required to submit. But if there are questions, I will reiterate what you just mentioned, Wes, and that is to contact our student financial services, and they'll be able to help that student or parent with that process.
And with that, Diane, I don't believe we have any other questions that have come in, so I think we are okay.
Great. Well, if we have missed any questions tonight, please feel free to call our office or drop us an email. We are available for you and for your students. We welcome the chance to connect with you. We thank you so much for your time tonight, and go Bucks. See you soon. Bye-bye.